Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Now we come to symposium number 2 of this Islamic miscellaneous symposiums. It is Islamic civilization in comparison with Western civilization. Presentation. The intelligentsia are accustomed to gather the two words of civilization and urbanization together without any differentiation between them in meaning, although some of them show the variety in each connotation from the other. What is in fact the extent of similarity and variety between them both? The word civilization refers to civilized life, in opposite of Bedouinized one. And the word urbanization refers to urbanized life, in opposite of the countryside one. But the question is still, are they similar or various in connotation? The connotation of each interferes into the other. The civilized life refers to living in the city and to the way or traits by which the people are depicted. That is in opposite of the Bedouinized or nomad life, which its people differ in their way or traits from those who live in the city. Also, the urbanized life refers to the living in the city and enjoying its distinguished traits from those of the countryside, which includes the Bedouin or nomad life and the village one as well. This means that the word countryside is wider in meaning than the Bedouin or nomad one, because it involves all areas outside city in general, whether those of the settlers in villages or of the nomad or the movable with cattle. Meanwhile, the Bedouin or nomad side is in particular only of those movable people with their cattle. This is in regard of the linguistic connotation of the two words. But as for the idiomatic connotation or traditional one, the word civilization is especially used for concepts about life. Meanwhile, the word urbanization is specially used for the material form and shapes of life. This means that the word civilization is restricted in connotation with concepts sprung out from the viewpoint about life or ideology. That is to say, all size, form, or materials of life. Meanwhile, the word urbanization matches this meaning when it involves material forms of life, such as statues, when affected by the viewpoint of life. And it refers also to scientific and industrial forms, such as computer and plane, when not affected by that viewpoint, but produced from sciences and its technology or industry and its progress. But what does a differentiation determine in life? Since differentiation means that the word civilization is the group of concepts about all things in life from the viewpoint of the ideology of the one and the nation in all, whereas the word urbanization is the material forms of the tangible things in life, whether affected by one of the ideological viewpoints or not. It means that civilization is private for one nation and not any other, up to its ideological viewpoint. But urbanization may be private for one nation when affected by its viewpoint, or general for all nations in the world when it is a product of science and industry, which are worldwide for all peoples and nations. The meaning of such differentiation determines notifying it always in life to know how to deal with things affected and non-affected with the ideological viewpoint. But what is the result of such a notification in differentiating upon the life of the individual and that of the society? The result is clear. When we deal with urbanization and its various forms, we distinguish among them and between them and those of civilization. One can unhesitatingly deal and use those forms of the Western urbanization produced from the science and industry, and even he has to adopt them to go on in progressive steps for his nation when they are away of the ideological viewpoint. Whereas he keeps himself away from those forms within the scope of its influence. Due to the Islamic ideology, it is impermissible to adopt the Western civilization being contradicted with the Islamic one in its ground or basis and in its depiction of this life and in its concept about man's happiness in this and next life. Now let us put these three contradictory points in detail. How does the Islamic civilization contradict the Western one in ground or basis? The basis of the Western civilization, the capitalistic democracy, is the ground of their ideology. It is the separation of religion from life and denying any religion's influence in life, which leads sequentially to such denial in the state which orders, controls, and cares for life affairs. Hence, their viewpoint about life is that it has no connection with religion, and religion in turn. And religion in turn has no influence in life and its laws. Life, up to them, is so in self-existence, disregarding anything about the Creator, Allah, since the human mind and management regulate it without any relationship with others. But the basis of the Islamic civilization is belief in God, and that God, the all-praised, has ordered and managed this existence within his control, in so a case that every part of its three parts, universe, man, and life, has its own order. He, the Almighty Allah, sent and revealed Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the relative by Islam as a religion upon the belief of which the Islamic civilization is based, although it involves believing in God, angels, scriptures, messengers, mixed world, and destiny. This means that its base is spiritual, which shows full contradiction with the Western one. And how does the Islamic civilization contradict the Western one in the concept of happiness in life? Happiness in West is enjoying bodily pleasures and supplying man with its factors as much as it may be, because they depict life as benefit only. Wherever there is bodily pleasure itself, such as the sexual cause, or its causes, such as our beneficial action, there is happiness. In a word, it is in satiating one's several desires, whether sexual or not, without any connection but with the bodily side. But happiness in the Islamic civilization is satisfying God's pleasure and not satiating desires of the body or instincts, because such association is not more than a means to keep man's body alive and without sparing him happiness despite its influence, in a way or other, on man's feeling pleasure. It is well known that sometimes man's stomach or any other organ is satiated, but he is miserable. Also his instinct of sex or any other bodily instinct is satisfied, but he remains unhappy. But when he connects this satisfaction with his ideal objects, that is to say, obtaining God's pleasure, he feels happy and safe and satisfied, whether this satiation is full or not, or even nil. But how do urbanized forms produced from the Western civilization contradict those produced from the Islamic one? It is well clear from these tangible examples. One, the photo of the camera, it may be affected by the Western civilization when woman's body is completely or somewhat bare. In this case, they look upon this photo as a piece of fine art. Also, it may be affected by the Islamic civilization when such a photo is prohibited because it simulates sexual instinct and causes ethical chaos. Two, when building a house, which is a urban form, the same as the photo, when influenced with the Western civilization, it cares nothing for women whenever shown to strangers in all cases, because she is for all enjoyment. But when influenced with the Islamic one, a wall is built all around or curtains on windows to hide women behind, because she is a sacred honor away from any of such filthy enjoyments. 3. Clothes. When private for non-Muslims, such as those of the clergymen, they are in contrary to what the Islamic civilization asks or demands from the clothes needed for prayer. Also, when uncovering body for certain occasions, such as in swimming or dancing, or all occasions in daily life, it is forbidden. But as for other clothes in West used for certain needs or a private custom not contradictory to the Islamic ones, they are of the urban forms produced from science and industry, which are permissible to use all over the world and in all civilizations. Before coming to an end with this symposium, we have to stand shortly with the effects of the Western civilization on the world of today. A quick glance on today's world shows to what extent the Western civilization is still causing misery and evils and loss of safety for all humanity. That is because such a civilization puts religion away from life to contradict man's nature, and to neglect the civilization puts religion away and to neglect the spiritual sphere of the societal and individual life, and to portray life in only a photo of benefit, and also to hold relations among people on basis of benefit only. However, such a basis does not result in among them and within themselves but disputes and fights when using power to attain their aims. Naturally, it makes colonialism or imperialism as a part of their nature and spares shaken ethics or manners, and circulates or spreads out spiritual crises among their individual and societal spheres. Such a case facilitates coming suicide as a solution for one's problems, or it simplifies deviation as a means one thinks it is enough to put an end for his own or society misery. Hence we notice so many attempts to go back to religion in their societies, which form really a recognition about their civilization being spoiled, and about their life being miserable after being so corrupted with several kinds of deviations. Then they come back searching for religion. But what religion? But what religion? If they really dig down in history in unprejudiced way, they would see how the Islamic civilization spared happiness for humankind because of being encountered with man's nature and of restricting human action within the frame of halal and haram, that is to say, permissible and non-permissible actions, and of portraying life in a picture gathering the material and spiritual sides together without neglecting one of them on behalf of the other, and of its concept about happiness, that it is endeavoring to obtain God's pleasure. Out of all these merits, not only Islamic civilization spares happiness for the individual and society, but also saves humanity from its heavy mare and leads all in the way of welfare and safety. Now we come to discussion. Question: what is the difference between saying this is a civilized man and a urbanized man? Answer: the civilized one has a good conduct and behavior in concord with his certain life viewpoint. But the urbanized one enjoys the urban forms of life, acquainted in the one country without any connection with a certain life viewpoint. Hence we can say the civilized one may be or not urbanized, and the urbanized also may be the other or not. Question: what is the value of such a differentiation between civilization and urbanization in view of life reality? Answer: it gives sound understanding and thence proper manner for coordinating or distinguishing between matters owned by the Muslims and others. This leads to know what to take and what to leave from other peoples or nations. Question: how may clothes be affected by civilization? Answer: it is affected by civilization from two sides. One, from its material of manufacturing. When made from any material spares benefit or profit for the producer and buyer in accordance with the Western viewpoint. Whereas Islamic profits making them from silk and gold for man and permits these for women. It prohibits making them from silk and gold for man and permits these for women because of its private view about men and women and disregard the benefit of such a material. 2. From its model or style, such as to be long, wide, covering the whole body of the woman, and from navel to knee of the man, and no similarity between man and woman or between Muslims and non-Muslims, especially in their private clothes. This is in regard of Islam. But of the West, they are completely in contrary to all this case, since they look upon sex as a means of enjoyment, not more. Question: can we say that the scientific or industrial forms of urbanization are not civilized? Answer: yes, they are unaffected with life viewpoint. Because the style of clothes, for example, may be affected or controlled by the Western viewpoint, and then it aims enjoyment, and may be not affected or controlled, and then it aims a certain permitted need. Question: doesn't prohibiting the Western civilization lead to stop acquiring sciences and industries from the West? Answer: no. Because when caring much for the distinguishing between civilization and urbanization, we see that the Western civilization is the ideological Western concepts about life, and so that is rejected legally. Whereas urbanization and its forms are two kinds, one affected by the civilization, and hence it is rejected also, and the other one not affected, but a product of science and industry, a matter which makes it worldly and not for a private civilization. This only second one can simply be quoted or acquired, whether because of sciences themselves or their production and industrial technology. Question: what is the relation between the Western civilization and their belief in separation of religion from life? Answer: since civilization is the concepts group about life, involving matters or things and forms or shows, the belief of separating religion from life makes concepts to be quoted not from religion, but from human mind and thought and management and judgment about things and form, and on basis of their benefits for man. Hence, the real basis of any civilization is the ideological belief upon which the one builds his life viewpoint. Question: what is the relation of believing in Allah as the Islamic belief and the Islamic civilization? Answer: since civilization is the concepts group about life, and these concepts are taken from what belief offers of thoughts and rules, which means performing orders and prohibitions of God, both taking and leaving, permitting and prohibiting, it shows the strong connection between the two as an origin and a branch of it. Question: what does it mean, the portraying of life in any civilization? Answer: it means explaining it and showing its reality. That is to say, when the Western civilization says that life is benefit, it explains that the reality of every human action is based on its benefit, represented in satisfying one's desires. When the Islamic civilization explains life, that it is a mixture of amalgam of material and spirit, it means that every human action is limited by both of material and spirit together, and not one of them. Question: what does it mean that a human action is material, even prayer to God? Answer: prayer is a group of movements and readings, and all these are material, but performing them directed by God's orders is spiritual. Hence we say that prayer is a mixture of spiritual and material elements. This description is not special for prayer, but for every action controlled or directed by God's orders or prohibitions, although prayer is composed of material action, in which spirit is more seen than any other, because of being performed directly to God, since it arranges the direct relationship between man and his creator, Allah. Question: since all human actions are material, if not controlled by God's orders or prohibitions, how do you mention 4 values for them and not only the material one? Answer: because the value of action is the direct purpose of carrying it out, and these purposes are only 4. 1. The material or beneficial one. 2. The moral one. 3, the human one, and 4, the spiritual one. If we specify man's actions, we see that they are within the frame of these 4 purposes or values. And if any of these 4 actions is controlled or conducted by God's orders or prohibitions, it should be a mixture or an amalgam of material and spirit. And when it is not so conducted, it would remain material only. Question: how does the Western civilization see that happiness is in the bodily pleasures? Answer: it is so when it sees that man's happiness has nothing to do with his relation with his Creator Allah, but it is up to his desire satisfaction, either in themselves as unorganic and instinctive, or in sparing the causes of satisfaction. Hence, it sees happiness only in the bodily pleasures. Question: since sexual intercourse affects satisfaction of the species instinct, how do both the Islamic and Western civilizations look upon it? Answer: the instinct satisfaction affects pleasure in the eye of both, but it is looked upon by the Western one as the material sensation which affects happiness by itself. But in the eye of the Islamic one, it is not aimed for itself, but for children and chastity or integrity to attain God's pleasure, a matter by which the material action is mixed by spirit for the sake of effecting the existence of self and bodily safety. In fact, this is the case of satisfying all instincts or bodily organs. Question: what does it mean that clothes are as material forms may affect contradiction between the Islamic and the Western civilizations? Answer: it is clear with the clothes of occasion when they are of special style or color, a case in which degradation is clearer in this occasion than that disregarding the source of occasion. But all of them are directed by the Western ideological viewpoint of life. Hence, they are in contrary to the Islamic concepts about clothes. Question: but how clothes in the West can be of certain need or adornment and do not contradict Islam's? Answer: if the certain need or adornment, such as the suit of a plain pilot, or of a workman in a factory, or of Eid, or of marriage, is agreed upon by Islam, their clothes are permissible under such a certain condition. Question: how does the Western civilization disagree with the human nature? Answer: because it separates religion from life as a basis upon which it is built, a matter which provokes denial of human nature involving the piety instinct, which is in need of God's rule. The last question and answer: why do you confine comparison between the Islamic and Western civilization without any reference to the socialistic one? Answer: because the Islamic one is the only one of them all which has the spiritual ground, and the only one which mixes material and spirit, and the only one which connects happiness concepts with the relationship with the Creator Allah, whereas the other two are the same in rejecting all these cases and in indulging in bodily desires and worldly demands. Now we come to an end with the second symposium, by God's help and guide, for which we thank Him and praise Him heartedly, cordially, and sincerely.